My name is Kelly Vasquez. I'm 37 years old. At 7:12 a.m., my phone vibrated against the nightstand, sharp and insistent in the quiet of my apartment. I reached for it half asleep, expecting a work alert or a spam text pretending to be my bank. Instead, it was my mother. Please don't come this Thanksgiving. We're keeping it just family, and that doesn't include you. No greeting, no explanation, no apology. Just 3 sentences that sat on the screen like a closed door. I read it once, then again. I even checked the date, the thread, the contact photo. My mother smiling in a picture I paid to have framed 3 years ago. The timestamp glowed back at me, 7:12 a.m. Early, deliberate. Like they wanted to catch me before I had time to ask questions or make plans. As if I ever made plans. I didn't type back right away. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. My chest felt strangely light, like something had slipped loose inside me. 14 years. That's how long I'd been quietly holding my family together. I picked the phone back up and typed 6 words. Message received. Expect a letter. I didn't add an emoji, didn't ask why, didn't beg for clarification. I wasn't angry, not yet. What I felt was clearer than that, something sharp and clean, like the moment you finally admit a truth you've been stepping around for years. I got out of bed, made coffee I barely touched, and opened my laptop. The spreadsheet was already there, pinned to the top of my files. I'd created it 10 years earlier, back when I told myself I was being responsible, not defensive. Medical bills, rent support, private school tuition, last-minute flights, car insurance lapses, emergency dental work no one bothered to tell their spouse about. Line by line, date by date, notes in the margins written in a tone I barely recognized anymore. Temporary, one time, just until next month. I scrolled slowly, letting the numbers accumulate without rushing them. I'd logged every transfer out of habit at first, later out of self-preservation. Not once had anyone asked if I needed help. Not once had anyone said thank you without immediately following it with another request. I hit the total cell and watched the number finalize. $610,382. I leaned back in my chair and let the silence stretch. I'd never thought of money as something owed back to me. I'd told myself it was love, obligation, loyalty. But exclusion has a way of forcing reevaluation. I closed the laptop and walked to the side drawer by the window. Inside were the spare keys to the SUV my younger brother drove like it belonged to him, and beneath them, folded neatly, the beach condo deed my lawyer had mailed months ago. My name was on it. It always had been. My parents liked to say the condo was for the family, but legally it had never been theirs. I'd paid the down payment during a refinancing mess when my dad was about to lose the property. They never asked whose name went on the paperwork. They just assumed. By noon, the SUV was sold. By evening, the condo was listed. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm. No more rent payments for my mom. No more private school tuition for my brother's son. No more, just Venmo us a little to get through. This wasn't revenge. It was the end of a role I'd outgrown. Because the truth was, this had never really been about money. It was about that text. We're keeping it just family. That sentence didn't just uninvite me from a holiday. It confirmed what had always been true but never said out loud. I wasn't family when it came to joy, only when something was due. I let my mind rewind 14 years. It started when my dad temporarily lost his job. I was 23, fresh into my first stable tech role, still stunned that my paycheck was more than survival. My mom had called crying. Rent was overdue. Could I help? Just for 1 month. I wired her $1,800 that night. She didn't text, thank you. That became the rhythm. Braces for my brother. I covered them. A transmission failure on the way to a music festival. I paid the mechanic over the phone. Surgery complications, insurance delays, Can you float us until it clears? I was the complication solver. No one else even pretended to try. At first, I told myself I had more than they did, that helping was the right thing to do. But even after my dad got rehired, even after my sister's promotions and my brother's failed business attempts, the requests never stopped. They just changed shape. They called me responsible, mature, the glue. Translation? You'll handle it. Inclusion always came with conditions. I learned to laugh off insults disguised as jokes. Must be nice being single, my brother once said at dinner. No responsibilities but your bank account. Or my mom's favorite. Good thing you don't have kids, you'd be broke. At my sister's wedding, they seated me at a side table with the photographer and his assistant. I paid for the open bar. My name wasn't in the program, and still, I showed up. I kept showing up until last Thanksgiving, when they planned a Maui trip without me. I found out through an Instagram story, Ohana time, on a beach I'd helped refinance 3 years earlier to keep it in the family. I didn't say anything. 2 days later, my sister texted, "Hey, my card got flagged. Can you spot me $400? I sent it. This year, though, something broke clean. That doesn't include you. So I wrote the letter. 3 sentences. Effective immediately, all financial support previously provided by me is terminated. All jointly held assets will be reclaimed or liquidated. You may contact legal representation for further details." I attached documentation, the log, every transfer, every bailout, page after page of proof they'd never bothered to look at before. I sent the email at 3:34 p.m. on a Thursday, right before the weekend, right before they'd start preparing for the Thanksgiving I'd been uninvited from. Then I waited. 17 hours of silence. And then my phone started buzzing. My sister, "Is this a joke?" My mom, "Please call me right now." My dad, "We need to talk." My brother, "You sold the car?" I didn't reply. I turned off my phone, went to the gym, ate dinner alone, and slept better than I had in years. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to earn my place. I was reclaiming it. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, it vibrated so hard it nearly slid off the counter. Missed calls. Text stacked on text. Voicemails so long they cut off mid-sentence. I didn't open any of them right away. I made breakfast. I drank my coffee slowly. I let the quiet stretch, because I'd learned something important the night before. Silence was the one thing my family couldn't stand. The first message I finally read was from my mother. "Kelly, you're hurting everyone. Not we're worried about you. Not did we misunderstand. Just accusation, wrapped in concern." Then my sister, "You need help. This isn't like you." As if the version of me who quietly absorbed everything was the only one they recognized as real. My dad's message came next, clipped and formal. "This family has always supported you. We deserve a conversation." I laughed out loud at that one. The sound surprised me, sharp, humorless. Support, apparently, meant taking until there was nothing left and calling it love. By noon, the tone shifted. My brother texted from an unfamiliar number. "I'm stuck in Arizona. The SUV's gone. Fix this." No greeting, no explanation, just expectation. I didn't reply. That afternoon, my boyfriend, Marcus, called me from work. He didn't sound angry, just confused. "They called me," he said. "Your mom and your sister. They said you were having some kind of breakdown." I closed my eyes. Of course they had. "What did they ask you to do?" I said. "They wanted me to talk you down. Said this was out of character for you." He paused. I told them it didn't sound like it was. Something in my chest loosened. They didn't stop there. They even reached out to my ex, Lena, from years ago. She texted me later, laughing. "Your family asked me to mediate," she said. "Like I'm the emotional translator for you." That's when I realized something critical. They weren't panicking because they missed me. They were panicking because access had been revoked. By Saturday, the desperation sharpened. Apparently, the beach condo had been prepped for Thanksgiving. Caterers booked, guests invited, my sister's friends flying in, children, dogs, coordinated outfits. I hadn't known any of it. I logged into the condo app, changed the access codes, and revoked the shared permissions. Then I called the utility company and transferred the account. It took less than 15 minutes to dismantle a fantasy they'd spent months planning. The messages came faster after that. "Kelly, you're punishing the kids. This is cruel. We don't understand why you're doing this." Still, no apology. Saturday night, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was almost gentle. "We didn't mean it." 4 paragraphs, carefully worded, emotionally precise. My mother wrote about how hard the year had been, about stress, about misunderstandings, about how they thought maybe I needed space. Then came the final paragraph. "If you could just reinstate my rent support for December, we can sort everything else out after the holidays." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. That's when it hit me. They still didn't understand. This wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't leverage. It wasn't a phase. It was a severance. That night, I stayed home. No wine, no dramatic playlist. I roasted a small chicken instead of a turkey because somehow that felt more honest. No spectacle, no performance, just me. At 9:43 p.m., my phone buzzed again. My sister. No apology, no explanation, just a shared folder link. Subject line, logistic. I opened it. Inside was a polished Thanksgiving itinerary. Seating charts, vendor lists, florals, valet schedules, a wardrobe note, earth tones only, nothing too loud. Then I saw the spreadsheet. My breath caught. It was titled Q1/Q2 Family Support Budget. Columns neatly labeled, rows filled with confidence. My mother, my father, my brother, my sister, and then KV, me. Projected contributions by April, $48,000. Already allocated. Rent support for mom, $8,000. Vehicle maintenance for dad, $1,200. School deposit for my nephew, $5,000. Emergency buffer, $20,000. They weren't asking, they were planning. I clicked the final tab, contingency. If Kelly becomes resistant, remind her how much we've done for her emotionally. If needed, push guilt angle via mom. She always comes around. That was the moment anger disappeared completely. What replaced it was clarity so cold it felt surgical. They weren't confused. They weren't careless. This was calculated. I wasn't a person to them. I was a line item. I printed the file, 28 pages, and set it beside my laptop. Then I opened my own archive. Tax records, bank wires, Venmo screenshots, mortgage cosigns, every favor, every emergency, including the $24,000 I'd quietly covered for my brother's medical bill that later turned out to be elective surgery and a Vegas weekend. By midnight, I had my own document. Title page. What this family took without repayment. Total, $610,382. And that was me being generous. I drafted the final notice calmly. No threats, no emotion. This document reflects the total amount I have contributed over 14 years. No portion has been repaid. Effective immediately, I will not be available for financial contributions, support, or emotional mediation. Any future contact will require formal mediation. I signed it. My accountant signed it, my attorney signed it, I CC'd the family. B CC'd the accountant they'd joked about once. Without Kelly, we'd be bankrupt. I sent it at 12:17 a.m. Then I turned off my phone and slept. Deep, unbroken sleep. The kind you don't realize you've been missing until it finally arrives. Thanksgiving morning arrived quietly. No alarms, no frantic group chat. No obligation to perform gratitude I didn't feel. At 9:47 a.m., my phone finally broke the silence. My mother first. "Kelly, you're ruining the holiday." My father followed seconds later. "Why did you send that to the CPA? This was supposed to stay private." Then my sister. "This is insane. We have guests." And finally, my brother. "You really sold the SUV?" Seriously? I didn't respond to any of them because this wasn't a misunderstanding that needed clarifying. It was a boundary finally being enforced, and boundaries don't require explanations to people who never respected them in the first place. The panic didn't fully hit them until the late morning. That's when the messages changed. Kelly, we can't get into the condo. There are kids here. The power's off. What is happening? I knew exactly what was happening. They were standing outside a property they'd always referred to as ours, discovering for the first time that ownership and entitlement are not the same thing. I imagined it clearly. My sister, in her carefully chosen earth tone outfit, phone pressed to her ear, trying to keep her voice calm in front of her friends. My mother hovering, wringing her hands, asking someone else to fix it. My brother pacing, already angry, already framing himself as the victim. I said nothing. Because they weren't used to hearing no. They were used to urgency being my weakness. Used to me folding when discomfort appeared. Used to my silence meaning compliance. That afternoon, a distant cousin tried calling. Then an aunt. Then someone I barely recognized by name. Everyone suddenly wanted to mediate. Not one of them asked me what had happened. They just wanted the noise to stop. At 4:22 p.m., my sister texted again. Guests are arriving. The power's off. What is this? I replied with exactly one sentence. Enjoy your gratitude from the parking lot. This wasn't revenge. It was dignity. The family group chat lit up moments later. Someone had renamed it Time to Heal. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been so predictable. First came guilt. My mother's voice note cracked with tears. She said I was better than this, that she didn't raise me to abandon family. Then fear. The car was gone, the condo inaccessible, credit cards declining. Still, I stayed silent. Instead, I sent the second wave. Formal withdrawals from the emergency fund I'd set up years ago, just in case. The trust account I'd quietly contributed to but never used. The tax shield I'd built to protect their assets more than mine. By morning, accounts were flagged. My brother's tuition payment bounced. My sister's card declined at a grocery store. My parents' property tax payment failed. At 9:03 a.m. the next day, my brother showed up at my door. He didn't knock. He pounded. I watched him through the peephole for a full 30 seconds before opening it. He looked wrecked. Sweat at his temples, eyes red, jaw tight like he was holding back a speech he'd rehearsed on the drive over. You left us stranded, he said the moment I opened the door. No hello. No apology. I leaned against the door frame, calm. No, I said. You left yourselves stranded. I just stopped towing the weight. His mouth opened, then closed. He tried guilt first. Claire's got bills. Mom's panicking. I've got a kid coming. I nodded slowly. Let me guess. Dad's disappointed? That threw him. Then came the classic. We're still your family. I met his eyes. No, I said quietly. You were a family that treated me like a resource, an ATM with a heartbeat. He shifted tactics. You never gave us the option not to accept your help. I stared at him. You always had the option to stop asking. Silence stretched between us. Then he played his last card. Mom says you've changed. I smiled. She's right. And I closed the door. An hour later, my mother left a voicemail. Long, rambling, circular. She cried. She blamed. She said the condo was a gift, that she'd promised to share it, that I'd always been the strong one. We need you to come back. I didn't argue. I sent one image in reply, a screenshot of the spreadsheet, the one where my name appeared as KV, a number, not a person. Along with it, I typed, "This is who you needed, not me. That version's gone. Happy Thanksgiving." By nightfall, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls. I cooked dinner, played music, sat inside a life that finally felt like it belonged to me. Not rented, not guilted into, not owed. They say silence is peaceful. That's not true. Real silence pulls at you. It waits for you to fill it with apologies you don't owe, with explanations no one deserves. But I didn't. I let it ring. By December, the noise stopped. No voicemails, No, just checking in. No cousins pretending neutrality. Thanksgiving happened without me. Crowded into my sister's apartment. Paper plates, fold-out chairs, a cake with thankful misspelled. My mother wasn't in any photos. My father posted a meme. Sometimes the tree must be cut to see who falls with it. 3 likes. 1 comment. You okay, Uncle Rick? I closed the app. Instead, I closed the final accounts, reclaimed the emergency fund, wired a portion to a cause I actually believed in, left the rest untouched, not because I needed it, but because I earned it. In January, a thick envelope arrived, my mother's handwriting, 4 pages of nostalgia, guilt, and 1 request. Not for money, for understanding. The same understanding they'd always demanded, that I excuse what they took so they wouldn't have to feel bad about it. I burned the letter in the sink and watched the paper curl. Then I wrote back 1 line. I can forgive. I won't be used again. No return address. That was 3 months ago. No birthdays, no group chats, no mediators. Just quiet. But this time, it's real peace. The kind you don't fill. The kind you protect. 3 weeks passed before anyone tried to contact me again. Not to apologize. Not to ask how I was. To test the silence. It came in the form of a forwarded email from my aunt. Subject line still intact. Just thought you should see this. I didn't open the attachment right away. I already knew what it would be. Some version of concern masquerading as confusion. Some gentle pressure disguised as love. I closed it unread. That was the strangest part of all of this. The ease. The way saying no, once it was done, didn't actually require effort anymore. It was like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying my entire adult life. The fallout kept moving without me. My sister's boutique finally closed. The one I'd quietly loaned money to twice and pretended was a gift the 3rd time. My brother moved back in with my parents when the tuition support disappeared and the crypto venture officially collapsed. My father took a part-time consulting job and stopped posting motivational quotes online. No one said my name publicly. They just stopped mentioning me. That was their version of dignity. In early February, my mother sent one last message. It wasn't angry. It wasn't desperate. It was restrained. Kelly, we miss you. I don't understand why things had to go this far. Families shouldn't keep score. I read it once. Then again. Families shouldn't keep score, but they had. They just never thought I would. I didn't reply. Instead, I went for a walk. The air was cold and clean, the kind that stings your lungs just enough to remind you that you're alive. I passed a bakery and bought a loaf of bread I didn't need. Sat on a bench and watched strangers argue about nothing important. Life unburdened. That night, Marcus asked me if I was okay. I think I finally am, I said, and meant it. People like to believe peace arrives dramatically, with closure and tearful conversations and full circle moments. That's not how it happened for me. Peace arrived quietly. It showed up in mornings without dread, in weekends without financial emergencies, in silence that didn't demand to be filled. Sometimes I wondered if we'd ever speak again. If one day my mother would call and actually ask instead of demand. If my siblings would learn the difference between love and access. Maybe. But if that day ever comes, it won't start with expectations. It will start with respect. People ask me now what happened with my family. I don't overshare. I don't dramatize it. I stopped being their donor, and they stopped being my blood. That usually ends the conversation. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the girl I was at 23. Fresh paycheck, hopeful, eager to prove she mattered. I wish I could reach back through time and tell her that love doesn't require self-erasure. That generosity without boundaries isn't kindness. It's consent to be used. But maybe I had to live it to understand it. The last thing I did was archive the folder on my laptop. Not delete it, archive it. Receipts matter because memory fades. Gaslighting doesn't. I didn't win anything. I didn't get an apology. What I got was better, my life back. And this time, I kept it.